Welcome to the Sports Investor Podcast, where it's all about smart sports betting. Here is your host, Professor MJ.
Hello everyone, this is Professor MJ. I'm a sports investor from Quebec City in Canada. I hope you're doing well. I'm feeling awesome today, and I'm ready to attack this episode about a topic I know all too well, since my whole life was heavily oriented towards this form of gambling for several years, arbitrage betting. Some of you may already have a good idea of what it is and may be looking for tips on how to be more effective, while for others it will be a real eye-opener and will blow you away. I know I got super excited the first time I heard about arbitrage betting, and back then I did not know it would have such a huge impact on my life. So thanks for joining me. I appreciate a lot. Let's get started right away. Section number 1. Introduction. Most people believe risk-free sports betting is impossible to achieve. Yet I'm about to show you how it can be done. I'm not talking about having a 99% chance of winning your bets. I'm claiming it can be 100%. I hate it when sports handicappers advertise some picks as being the lock of the century, or 100% guaranteed, or that you should bet your house, wife, or kids on a certain team. So how can I be having a similar speech? Because there's a different twist to it. We are not going to bet on one of the two teams playing head-to-head. We're going to bet both teams with a guaranteed profit on the horizon. Each casino has its own set of odds on every game. When odds on a specific game differ significantly enough between two bookies, you'll have the opportunity to bet both teams while guaranteeing yourself a net profit. That's what's called an arbitrage opportunity. Section number 2. Example. Throughout this podcast episode, I'll need to illustrate some concepts with some calculations. I'm aware it's not as easy to visualize computations that are being told verbally as opposed to reading a text, so I'll do my very best to make this session as comprehensible as I can by repeating numbers a few times. Bear with me and try to focus as much as you can. Okay, let's see how arbitrage betting works with a fictitious example. It is vital that you are comfortable dealing with odds in American format in order to understand this entire podcast session. If you are not there yet, I invite you to listen to the very first episode of the Sports Investor Podcast, where I discuss this important notion. Alternatively, you could read the text version of this same session in the blog section of my website at professormj.com. If you don't understand American odds, you will quickly feel lost. Alright, so let's get to the example to see how you can guarantee yourself a profit through arbitrage. Much like I did in the first episode, I'll use a fictitious matchup between two teams called the Beast and the Awful, where, as you can imagine, the Beast have the superior team. Suppose bookie number 1 has the following odds: Beast minus 150 versus Awful plus 130. Meanwhile, bookie number 2 has the following odds: Beast minus 180 versus Awful plus 160. So again, we've got minus 150 versus plus 130 with the first sportsbook, while the second one has minus 180 versus plus 160. If you want to place a wager on the Beast, you have the option to bet at minus 150 or minus 180. Clearly, the most advantageous odds are minus 150. If you're willing to risk $1,500 on the Beast at such odds, your potential profit is $1,000. On the other hand, a player wanting to put some cash on the Awful must choose between plus 130 or plus 160. The higher odds are plus 160, obviously. Let's say you're willing to risk $960 on the Awful at such a price. The potential profit turns out to be $1,536. Unless you're very good with mental math, there's no way you could have figured out that number. The potential return of a $960 bet at plus 160 is equal to 960 times 2.6, which is plus 160 in decimal format, equals $2,496. Since the potential return includes the stake amount, the potential net profit is $2,496 minus 960, which is equal to $1,536. Now don't worry if your head is spinning after hearing all of these numbers. You don't necessarily need to understand everything I've just said. I just mentioned it for those of you who are more advanced. Let me recap the important information. You could make the following two bets. Beast with bookie number 1, risking $1,500 to win $1,000. And Awful with bookie number 2, risking $960 to win $1,536. Assuming no ties are possible, there are two possible outcomes. Outcome number 1. The Beast win the game. In this case, you earn a $1,000 profit through bookie number 1, while losing $960 to the second bookmaker. So overall, you have therefore won $40, which is $1,000 minus $960. Outcome number 2. The Awful win the game. In this case, you earn a $1,536 profit through bookie number 2, while losing $1,500 to the first bookmaker. Overall, you have therefore won $36, which is $1,536 minus $1,500. As you can hopefully see, if my explanations were clear enough, you are netting a $40 profit in the eventuality of the Beast winning the game, while earning a $36 profit if the Awful team gets the victory. Unlike standard betting, where you are backing a single team and worrying about them succeeding, you can sit back and relax, knowing you'll be richer at the end of the day. Your first reaction might be as follows. I need to bet $1,500 on one side and $960 on the other side, only to end up $36 or $40 richer? Geez, is it really worth it? I'm going to address this question in a short while. First, let me discuss the important issue of how to identify arbitrage opportunities. Section number 3. How to quickly detect arbitrage opportunities. As mentioned earlier, if you want to be serious about arbitrage betting, you need to be proficient and comfortable with American odds. You will save precious time by looking at odds in American format, as opposed to decimal format, which can be the difference between a missed opportunity and the profitable one. Let's go back to the beast versus awful example. Recall the lines were minus 150 versus plus 130 with the first bookie, as opposed to minus 180 versus plus 160 with the second sportsbook. How can you tell in the blink of an eye whether you have an arbitrage opportunity or not? Here's the crucial rule. The number next to the plus sign associated with the underdog's odds must be greater than the number next to the minus sign corresponding to the favorite's odds. Let me repeat this fundamental rule. The number next to the plus sign associated with the underdog's odds must be greater than the number next to the minus sign corresponding to the favorite's odds. Basically, you start by looking for the best possible odds on the underdog. In this case, they could be found with bookie number 2 at plus 160. Now, what are the best odds on the favorite? You're right, they are minus 150 with the first bookie. You are then hoping that the number associated with the underdog, 160, is greater than the number connected to the favorite, 150. Since 160 is indeed a higher number than 150, you should hurry up and take advantage of this favorable situation.
Yes! Yes!
Just to make sure things are crystal clear, let's consider another example where this time we are looking at odds from 5 different casinos on a game featuring Team A versus Team B. Suppose the lines on Team A across all 5 sportsbooks are as follows, and please try to spot the highest odds as I'm reading them out loud. Plus 180, plus 170, plus 180, plus 187, and plus 175. What were the best odds on Team A? Again, the odds are plus 180, plus 170, plus 180, plus 187, and plus 175. The most favorable odds are plus 187. Let's move on to the lines on Team B, and again try to pinpoint the best odds across all 5 bookmakers. Minus 220, minus 200, minus 190, minus 198, and minus 195. Yep, the most advantageous odds are minus 190. Again, let's recap the important facts since it may not be super easy to picture the numbers in your mind. The best odds we found on Team A were plus 187, while the best odds on Team B were minus 190. Now, do we have an arbitrage opportunity? Since the number associated with the underdog, 187, is not greater than the figure related to the favorite, 190, you cannot guarantee yourself a profit by betting this match. Just move on to the next game. Section number 4. Tips to increase your winnings. Let me go back to the question I raised earlier. Is it all worth it? Betting $1,500 on one side plus $960 on the other side only to earn a guaranteed $36 or $40 profit? First of all, some arbitrage opportunities will be more rewarding than others. It depends how much the odds differ from one sportsbook to the other. Secondly, the amount you can earn on a daily basis depends on how many opportunities you can find. In this regard, it's fundamental that you find bookies that are not sharp, which means they are slow to move their lines or they tend to favor some teams too much. In other words, you need to find sportsbooks whose lines deviate from the general consensus. If you're wondering which bookies are less sharp, I've got good news for you. The sportsbook reviews on my website discuss this specific aspect. Simply go to professormj.com and click on Sportsbook Reviews in the header menu. I have awarded each bookie with a grade, and you can either read each in-depth review on my website or listen to those same reviews in audio format in some of my podcast episodes, or even watch them in YouTube videos. I started getting involved in the sports gambling world back in 1999, specifically with the intention of doing arbitrage betting. Back then, the opportunities were plentiful. I spent lots of days and evenings tracking lines on all sports and leagues, some I absolutely knew nothing about, which was not important for my purpose. As years went on, it became more and more difficult to find good opportunities because bookmakers made the appropriate adjustments. Nowadays, the lines are more similar from one bookie to the other. Unlike the early 2000s, online gambling is now very popular. With so many bettors around the world, whenever a bookmaker has odds that are dissimilar to others, it will almost immediately receive heavy action, especially on major sporting events where arbitrage occasions are seldom seen. That's why I will provide the following recommendation if you have the intention of getting into arbitrage betting. Don't waste your time tracking money lines, spreads, or totals on major sports like the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, or the most important soccer leagues. You can expect to earn less money doing this than if you get a job at McDonald's. You will need to get off the beaten path and investigate more obscure sports or leagues. Another viable option is to look at proposition bets. That's actually a great source of arbitrage opportunities. In case you do not know what prop bets are, here's Wikipedia's definition. Quote, proposition bets in sports are differentiated from the general bets for or against a particular team or regarding the total number of points scored." End quote. It could be anything. Here are a few examples. Which team is going to score first? Will there be a run in the first inning of a baseball game? How many sacks will be recorded by both teams during a football game? Will the largest lead of the game be over or under 15.5 points, etc.? Many people also enjoy betting player props, which are bets regarding the performance of a specific player. A few quick examples. Will player X score at least a goal? Will player X score over or under 26.5 points? Will quarterback X throw at least one interception in American football? Will player X make or miss his first 3-point attempt in basketball, etc.? The number of possible proposition bets is only limited by the odds maker's imagination. A very large number of prop bets are offered on the Super Bowl, which, by the way, is by far the best money-making event when it comes down to arbitrage. Historically, there have been several weird bets on that game. What color Gatorade will the winning coach get doused with? How long will the national anthem singing last? Over or under 2 minutes, for instance. Will the power go out during the game? One more tip related to successful arbitrage betting. The more accounts you have, the more opportunities you will find. I personally started off by having an account with 2 or 3 sportsbooks. At the peak of my arbitrage career, I had 10. Obviously, you have a better chance of finding profitable situations when comparing odds from 10 different bookies. However, you need more capital, so it's okay to start small. An interesting side effect of doing arbitrage is receiving bonuses from casinos. Almost all of them offer sign-up and or reload bonuses. So not only are you betting risk-free, but you are also receiving an additional benefit. Again, if you are looking to open an account with a new sportsbook and need advice, please have a look at what I call my brutally honest sportsbook reviews on my website at professormj.com. Unlike other people writing so-called reviews, I tell you both the good and the bad about each bookie. I constantly monitor online forums to verify which sportsbooks are receiving high praise from actual players and which ones are getting negative feedback. I also tell you about my own personal experiences dealing with those bookmakers, including some surprising anecdotes.
Yes! Yes!
Here's one final tip, which is actually not really a tip, but rather a tool that will increase your winnings in a big way. When doing arbitrage betting, the name of the game is speed. You need to act quickly before the lines change. The biggest time waster comes from the calculations you need to make in order to know how much to bet on each side, so that the net profit is nearly the same no matter the outcome. I've developed a tool that facilitates the process, and I'm happy to share it with you. Just go to professormj.com/pages/arbitrage tool. Again, professormj.com/pages/arbitrage tool. Or simply check out the show notes for the link I just mentioned. All you need to do is enter 3 pieces of information: the odds on one side of the bet, the odds on the other side of the bet, and the amount you are willing to bet on one of these 2 sides. The calculator will automatically let you know how much you should bet on the other side in order to lock a nearly identical profit regardless of the result. Section number 5. Pitfalls. It would not be fair to end this session without mentioning the drawbacks from this form of gambling, if we can call it gambling. Pitfall number 1. Once you have identified an arbitrage opportunity, the process is not totally risk-free. The most common source of losses comes from line moves. Suppose you are about to bet Team A at minus 140 and Team B at plus 145. You then make some quick calculations to determine the amount you are going to bet on each side, or you are using the free tool on my website. You place your bet on Team A, and as you are preparing yourself to bet Team B, you realize the line has moved from plus 145 to plus 135.
You have got to be kidding.
Unless another bookie has a line of at least plus 140, you are doomed to lose some money in the process. Here's a tip. Place your first of 2 bets on the line that seems the most out of whack. Imagine you have 5 accounts, and the line is set at minus 140 on Team A with all bookies except one that has Team A at minus 153 versus Team B at plus 143. You absolutely need to rush and first bet on Team B at plus 143. Once that's done, even though you try betting Team A at minus 140 with a certain bookie and the line changes, you still have 3 more bookies that had the same 140 line. It's pretty unlikely that their lines will all change. Pitfall number 2. This may sound ridiculous, but trust me, it's likely to happen to you if you pursue a long arbitrage career. Betting the same team twice. I've done it before, and I know several people who have done it also. Once you have found a good opportunity, the adrenaline rush kicks in, and since you are aware of the potential line moves, you try to act as fast as possible. Now, what generally happens when we try to do things too quickly? That's right, we make mistakes. Instead of placing 1 bet on Team A and 1 bet on Team B, you end up wagering on Team A twice. You might realize right away that you committed a big mistake, in which case you'll have 2 options: hedging or taking a gamble. By hedging, I mean betting a sufficient amount on Team B to prevent huge losses if Team A loses the game. If you go the hedging route, you will likely have guaranteed losses, but it won't be a devastating blow to your bankroll. The second option, taking a gamble, is simple. You cross your fingers, hoping Team A wins the match. It's up to you. It's also possible that you bet the same team twice, but don't realize it until you check your account balances the next day. It can be a thrilling experience or a crushing one, depending on the outcome. Trust me, it really hurts when you realize you have just lost your entire winnings from the past couple of months of hard work. The best way to avoid such huge losses is to log your bets in an Excel file after you are done placing them. When you check your betting history in your bookie's accounts, you will notice the error. Pitfall number 3. There are more line moves close to game time. The public is excited about the game which is set to begin, and more betting action occurs. That creates more line movements, and therefore more chances of finding arbitrage opportunities. The big danger here is to bet Team A only to realize it's too late to bet Team B because the line is now off the board. Be aware of this risk. You could elect to bet smaller amounts when the game is about to start. Pitfall number 4. Always be aware of each casino's betting limits. Assume you were planning to bet $500 on Team A and $800 on Team B. You start by wagering on Team A, but as you execute the bet on Team B, you realize you are not allowed to bet more than $300. If you are lucky enough, you might find another bookie that offers similar odds. Otherwise, you might have to bet on weak odds while guaranteeing yourself a loss instead of a gain. Pitfall number 5. One last potential hazard. Getting limited or banned by a casino. Some bookmakers don't mind dealing with sharps, but others hate it. Once they realize you only make smart bets, they might react by lowering significantly your betting limits. This phenomenon is most common when you only focus on proposition bets, which is something they don't like to see. They could also politely ask you to cash out and leave. If you're playing with reputable casinos, they are pretty unlikely to steal your money. Again, I invite you to take a look at my sportsbook reviews to help you find bookies that are trustworthy. All of the above warnings may sound like there are a lot of pitfalls. As you gain more experience, you will get better at avoiding them. I just wished someone had told me about them before I got started. You are getting a head start by being forewarned. Section number 6. Current status and future of arbitrage. I mentioned earlier that arbitrage opportunities were in abundance in the early 2000s, but were now more difficult to find these days because more and more bookmakers copy each other's odds. It may sound like arbitrage is slowly dying. However, it has regained some momentum thanks to the skyrocketing popularity of live betting. In the early days of online gambling, you could only bet on a game before it actually began, and perhaps at the halftime break, where you could try to predict what was going to happen in the second half. Nowadays, almost all bookies offer live betting, where you can place wagers throughout the match, as casinos update their odds based on how the game plays out. That has opened up a whole new world of arbitrage opportunities. Yahoo! Things are happening very quickly, and casinos don't have time to verify whether their odds are in line with others. In other words, live betting is another area where I strongly recommend tracking lines, because you will find profitable situations if you are patient enough. Keep in mind, though, that pitfalls described earlier are more present than ever with this type of gambling due to its fast-paced nature, since lines are moving all the time. That's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed recording it. The next time I will be recording a session exhibiting a sports betting winning strategy, I'll be covering the form of gambling I'm personally using the most these days: value betting. Be aware that you'll need your mind to be extremely sharp while listening to this episode, because there will be even more mathematics and calculations involved. But trust me, it is really worth it. Here's a suggestion. You could start by listening to it while you're driving your car or going for a run to get a rough idea of how it works, and then read carefully the associated blog post on my website to figure out the details. If you like the work I'm putting out for free and want to be updated on what I've been up to, you could subscribe to my mailing list, which can be done from the main page of ProfessorMJ.com, or better yet, join my friendly Facebook group where I occasionally run some free prediction contests where you can win cash or prizes. Simply go to facebook.com/groups/ProfessorMJ. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. Be sure to rate this podcast if you're listening through iTunes. No matter if you liked it or not, I love getting feedback so that I can always improve. Keep educating yourself about sports betting, as this is a wise investment of your time, and I hope the Sports Investor Podcast can contribute towards that goal. This is Professor MJ from Quebec City. It was great talking to you. I hope to see you soon. Peace out.